Friar Anselmo by Julia Caroline Dorr. Read for LibriVox.org by Chris Pyle. Friar Anselmo for a secret sin sat bowed with grief the convent cell within, nor dared, such was his shame, to lift his eyes to the low wall whereon, in dreadful guise, the dead Christ hung upon the cursed tree. Frowning he thought upon his misery. What was his sin it matters not to tell, but he was young and strong, the records say. Perhaps he wearied of his narrow cell. Perhaps he longed to work as well as pray. Perhaps his heart too warmly beat that day. Perhaps, for life is long, the weary road that he must travel, bearing as a load the slow, monotonous hours that one by one dragged in a lengthening chain from sun to sun, appalled his eager spirit, and his vow pressed like an iron hand upon his brow. Perhaps some dream of love, of home, of wife, had stirred this tumult in his lonely life, tempting his soul to barter heavenly bliss and sell its birthright for a woman's kiss. At all events the struggle had been hard, and, as a bird from the glad ether barred, so he beat his wings, till bruised and torn he wished that night he had never been born. And still the dead Christ on the cursed tree seemed to mock his hopeless misery. Still Mary, mother, turned her eyes away, nor saint nor angel bent to hear him pray. The calm cold moonlight through the casement shone. Weird shadows darkened on the floor of stone. Without, what solemn splendors, and within, what fearful wrestlings with despair and sin. Sudden and loud the cloister bell outrang. Afar a door swung to with sullen clang, and overhead he heard the rhythmic beat, the measured monotone of many feet. Seeking the chapel for the midnight prayer, black wings seemed hovering round him in the air, beating him back when, with a stifled moan, he would have sought the holy altar stone. Then, with a swift sharp cry, prostrate he fell before the crucifix. The gates of hell shall not prevail against me, loud he cried, stretching his arms to Christ the crucified. By thy dread cross, thy dying agony, thine awful passion, Lord, deliver me. Was it a dream? The taunting demons fled. Through the dim cell a wondrous glory spread, and all the air was filled with rare perfumes, wafted from censers rich with heavenly blooms. Transfigured stood the Christ before his eyes, clothed in white samite, woven in paradise, and from the empty cross upon the wall streamed a wide splendor that encompassed all. Was it a dream? Anselmo's sight grew dim. The cloistered chamber seemed to reel and swim. Yet well his spirit knew the glorious guest, and all his manhood rose to meet the test. "What wilt thou have me, Lord, to do?" he cried, with pallid lips, and kissed the sacred feet. And then in accents strangely calm yet sweet, these words he heard from Christ the crucified, the pitying Christ, his inmost soul who read, with all its wild unrest, its doubt and dread, "Make thou a copy of my holy word." Then mystic presences about him stirred, the vision faded. At the dawn of day, prostrate and pallid in the dusk he lay. Was it a dream? God knows. The narrow cell wore the old aspect he had learned so well, and from the crucifix upon the wall no glory streamed illuminating all. Yet still a subtle fragrance filled the room, and looking round him in the soft gray gloom, Anselmo saw upon the fretted floor an eagle's quill that this grave legend bore: "He works most nobly for his fellow men, who gives my word to them by tongue or pen." Henceforth Anselmo prayed, but worked as well, nor felt the bondage of his cloister cell, for all his soul was filled with high intent. He had no dream since its accomplishment, to make a copy of the holy word, fairer than eye had seen, or ear had heard, or heart conceived of. Day by day he wrought, his fingers guided by a single thought, forming each letter with the tenderest care, with points of richest color here and there, with birds on swaying boughs and butterflies poised on gay wings o'er sprays of eglantine, with tangled tracery of flower and vine through which gleamed cherub faces half divine, with fading leaves that drift when summer dies, and angels floating down the evening skies. Each word an orison, each line a prayer. Slowly the work went on from day to day. The seasons came and went. May followed May. Year after year passed by with stately tread to join the countless legions of the dead, till Fra Anselmo, wan and bowed with age, bent, a gray monk, above the parchment page. Death waited till he wrote the last fair line, then touched his hand and closed the book divine. The world has grown apace since then. He who would give God's word to men in cloistered cell or parchment page no longer bends from youth to age. Countless as leaves by autumn strewn, the leaves of his great book are blown over the earth as wide and far as seeds by wandering breezes are. Yet none the less he speaks today, as to Anselmo in his cell, bidding men speed upon their way, his later messages as well. For not alone in Holy Book, in revelations dim and old, in sweetest stories simply told, in grand prophetic strains that reach the loftiest heights of human speech, in martial hymns or saintly psalm, in fiery threat or logic calm, God's messages are writ today, and he whose voice Mount Sinai shook still bids men hearken and obey. He writes his name upon the hills, he whispers in the mountain rills. He speaks through every flower that blows, in breath of lily, tint of rose, in sultry calms, in furious beat of the wild storm's tempestuous feet, in starlit night and dewy morn, and splendor of the day new born. He uttereth his thunders where the shock of battle rends the air. He guides the fiery steeds of war, he rules unseen the maddening jar, the hate and din of party strife, and bids it serve the nation's life. He leads fair science where she walks with stately tread among the stars, or where, with reverent voice, she talks with nature through the eternal bars. His word is uttered wheresoever a human soul has ears to hear. The royal message never errs. God sent it true interpreters. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. Thank you for listening.
The King's Rosebud by Julia Coraline Dorr. Read for LibriVox.org by Julia Layne. Only a blushing rosebud folding up, such wealth of sweetness in its dewy cup, that the whole air was like rare incense flung, from golden censers round high altars swung. One day the king passed by with stately tread, and reaching forth his hand, he lightly said, "All sweets are mine, therefore this rose I take, and wear it in my bosom for love's sake." Then while the king passed on with smiling face, the sweet rose gloried in its pride of place. But ah, the deeds that in love's name are done, the woeful wrack wrought underneath the sun. Still with that smile upon his lip, the king laid his rash hand upon the beauteous thing, in hot haste tore the crimson leaves apart, and drained the sweetness from its glowing heart, seared the soft petals with its fiery breath, then tossed it from him to ignoble death. When next with idle steps I passed that way, prone in the mire the king's fair rosebud lay. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. Somewhere by Julia Coraline Dorr. Read for LibriVox.org by Julia Layne. How can I cease to pray for thee? Somewhere in God's great universe thou art today. Can he not reach thee with his tender care? Can he not hear me when for thee I pray? What matters it to him who holds within the hollow of his hand all worlds, all space, that thou art done with earthly pain and sin? Somewhere within his ken thou hast a place, somewhere thou livest and hast need of him, somewhere thy soul sees higher heights to climb, and somewhere still there may be valleys dim that thou must pass to reach the hills sublime. Then all the more, because thou canst not hear poor human words of blessing, will I pray. O true brave heart, God bless thee, wheresoever in his great universe thou art today. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. Peradventure by Julia Caroline Dorr. Read for LibriVox.org by Julia Layne. Peradventure. I am thinking tonight of the little child that lay on my breast 3 summer days, then swiftly, silently dropped from sight, while my soul cried out in sore amaze. It is 15 years ago tonight. Somewhere, I know, he has lived them through, perhaps with never a thought or dream of the mother heart he never knew. Is he yet but a babe, or has he grown to be like his brothers, fair and tall, with a clear bright eye and a springing step, and a voice that rings like a bugle call? I loved him. The rose in his waxen hand was wet with the dew of my falling tears. I have kept the thought of my baby's grave through all the length of these changeful years. Yet the love I gave him was not like that I give today to my other boys, who have grown beside me and turned to me in all their griefs and in all their joys. Do you think he knows it? I wonder how much, if the dead are passionless, cold and dumb, if into the calm of the deathless years no thrill of a human love may come. Perhaps sometimes from the upper air he has seen me walk with his brothers 3, or felt in the tender twilight hour the breath of the kisses they gave to me. Over his birthright, lost so soon, perhaps he has sighed as the swift years flew. O child of my heart, you shall find somewhere the love that on earth you never knew. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Rena, A Legend of Brussels, by Julia Caroline DORR, read for LibriVox.org by Ezwa, in Belgium, in March 2015. 1. St. Gudula's bells were chiming for the midnight, sad and slow, in the ancient town of Brussels, many and many a year ago, and St. Michael, poised so grandly on his lofty airy height, seemed transfigured in the glory of the full moon's tender light, when a fair and saintly maiden crowned with locks of palest gold, Rena stood beside her lover, son of Hildebrand the Bold. She with grief and tears was pallid, but his face was hard and stern. All the passion of his being in his dark eyes seemed to burn. "Never dream that I will give thee back thy plighted faith," he cried. "By Saint Michael's sword I swear it, thou, my love, shalt be my bride." "Nay, but hear me," she responded. "Hear the words that I must speak. I must speak, and thou must hearken, though my heart is like to break. Yestermorn, as I sat spinning blithely at my cottage door, straightway fell a stately shadow in the sunshine on the floor, and a figure stood before me, so majestic and so grand, that I knew it in a moment for the mighty Hildebrand. Stood and gazed on me, till downward at my feet the distaff dropped, and in all my veins the pulsing of the swift life-current stopped. 'Thou art Rena,' then he uttered, and he swore a dreadful oath, and the tempest of his anger beat on me and on us both. 'She who thinks to wed with Volmar must have lands and gold,' said he, 'or must come of noble lineage fit to mate with mine and me. Thou art but a peasant maiden, empty-handed, lowly born. All the ladies of my castle would look down on thee with scorn. Even he will weary of thee when his passion once is spent, vainly cursing her who doomed him to an endless discontent.' Then I, trembling, rose up slowly, and I looked him in the face, though the dreadful frown it wore seemed to darken all the place. 'Sir, I thank you for this warning,' said I, speaking low and clear, 'but the laughter of your ladies I must teach my heart to bear. For the rest, your son is noble, and my simple womanhood he will hold in loving honor as a saint the Holy Rood. Oh, then his stern face whitened, and a bitter laugh laughed he. Truly this my son is noble, and he shall not wed with thee. Hear my words now, and remember, for by this good sword I swear, and by Michael standing yonder watching us from upper air, if he dares to place a wedding ring upon your dowerless hand, on his head shall fall a father's curse, the curse of Hildebrand. Oh, my Volmar! Then the earth rocked, and I fell down in a swoon. When I woke, the room was silent, it was past the hour of noon. And I waited for thy coming, as the captive waits for death, with a mingled dread and longing, and a half-abated breath. Straight the young man bowed before her, as before a holy shrine. Never hand of high-born lady was more richly dowered than thine. What care I for gold or honours, or my father's curse? He said, but the words died out in shudders, and his face grew like the dead. Then she twined her white arms round him, and she murmured, sweet and low, as the night wind breathing softly over banks where violets blow. He who is accursed of father, he shall be accursed of God, long ago said one who followed where the holy prophets trod. Kiss me once then, O my Volmar, just once more, my Volmar dear, even as you would kiss my white lips if I lay upon my bier. For a gulf as dark as death has opened wide twixt thee and me, neither thou nor I can cross it, and thy wife I may not be. 2. Once again the bells of midnight chimed from St. Gudula's towers, while St. Michael watched the city slumbering through the ghostly hours. But no slumber came to Rena where she moaned in bitter pain, for the anguish of that parting wrought its work on heart and brain. Suddenly the air grew heavy as with magical perfume, and a weird and wondrous splendor filled the dim and silent room. In the middle of the chamber stood a lady fair and sweet, with bright tresses falling softly to her small and sandaled feet. Flushed her cheeks were as a wild rose, and the glory of her eyes was the laughing light and glory of the kindling morning skies. Airy robes of lightest tissue from her white arms floated free. They seemed woven of the mist that curls above the azure sea, wrought in curious devices, star and wheel and leaf and flower, that, like frost upon a window-pane, might vanish in an hour. In her hands she bore a cushion, quaintly fashioned, strangely set, with small silver pins that spanned it like a branching coronet. And from threads of finest texture swung light bobbins to and fro, as the lady stood illumined in the weird and wondrous glow. Not a single word she uttered, but as silent as a shade. Down the room she swiftly glided, and beside the startled maid knelt a radiant vision, smiling into Rena's wondering eyes, giving arch yet gracious answer to her tremulous surprise. Then she laid the satin cushion on the wondering maiden's knee, and to all her mute bewilderment no syllable spake she. But as in and out and round about the silver pins among flashed the white hand of the lady, and the shining bobbin swung, lo, a web of fairy lightness, like the misty robe she wore, swiftly grew beneath her fingers, drifting downward to the floor. And as Rena looked and wondered, inch by inch the marvel grew, till the eastern windows brightened as the grey dawn struggled through. Then the lady's hand touched Rena's, and she pointed far away where the palace towers were gleaming in the first red light of day. But when once again the maiden turned her glance within the room, with the lady fair had vanished all the splendor and perfume. Still the satin cushion lay there, quaintly fashioned, strangely set, with the silver pins that spanned it like a branching coronet. Still the light web she had woven lay in drifts upon the floor, like the mist wreaths resting softly on some lone, enchanted shore. 3. Slowly Rena raised the cushion, with her sweet eyes shining clear, lightly tossed the fairy bobbins, half in gladness, half in fear. Ah, not vain had been her watching as the lovely lady wrought. All the magic of her fingers her own cunning hand had caught. Many a day above the cushion Rena's peerless head was bent, and through many a solemn night she labored on with sweet intent. For, mayhap, the mystic marvels that she wore might bring her gold, a fair dowry fit to match the pride of Hildebrand the Bold. Then she braided up her long hair, and put on her russet gown, and with wicker basket laden passed she swiftly through the town, to the palace where Queen Ildegar, with dames of high degree, in a lofty oriel window sat, the beauteous morn to see. In the doorway she stood meekly, till the queen said, "Maiden fair, what have you in yonder basket that you carry with such care?" Eagerly she raised her blue eyes, hovering smiles and tears between. Then across the room she glided, and knelt down before the queen. Lifting up the wicker cover, "Saints in heaven!" cried Ildegar, "here are tissues fit for angels, wrought with wreath and point and star in most curious devices. Never saw I aught so rare. Where found you these frail webs woven of the lightest summer air?" "Well, they may be fit for angels," said she underneath her breath. "O my lady, hear a story that is strange and true as death." But ere yet the tale was ended, up rose good Queen Ildegar, and she sent her knights and pages to the castle riding far. "Bring me Hildebrand and Volmar, ere the sun goes down," she cried. "O my ladies, for a wedding, and your queen shall bless the bride. I will buy these airy wonders, and this maiden in her hand shall a dowry hold as royal as the noblest in the land." So they combed her shining tresses, and they brought her robes of silk, broidered thick with gold and silver, on a ground as white as milk. But she whispered, "Sweetest ladies, let me wear my russet gown that I wore this happy morning, walking blithely through the town. I am but a peasant maiden, all unused to grand estate, and for robes of silken splendor, dearest ladies, let me wait." Then the good queen, smiling brightly, from the wicker basket took lightest web of quaintest pattern, and its filmy folds outshook. With her own white hand she laid it over Rena's golden hair, and she cried, "Oh, look, my ladies, ne'er before was bride so fair." End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
A Secret by Julia Caroline Dorr. Read for LibriVox.org by Ken Masters. It is your secret and mine, love. Ah me, how the dreary rain, with a slow persistence, all day long dropped on the window-pane. The chamber was weird with shadows, and dark with the deepening gloom, where you in your royal womanhood lay waiting for the tomb. They had robed you all in white, love. In your hair was a single rose, a marble rose it might well have been, in its cold and still repose. Oh, paler than yonder carven saint, and calm as the angels are, you seemed so near me, my beloved, yet were, alas, so far. I do not know if I wept, love, but my soul rose up and said, "My heart shall speak unto her heart, though here she is lying dead. I will give her a last love token, that shall be to her a sign in the dark grave, or beyond it, of this deathless love of mine." So I sought me a little scroll, love, and thereon in eager haste, lest another's eye should read them, some mystic words I traced. Then close in your clasped fingers, close in your waxen hand, I place the scroll for an amulet, sure you would understand. The secret is yours and mine, love. Only we two may know what words shine clear in the darkness of your grave so green and low. But if when we meet hereafter in the dawn of some fairer day, you whisper those mystical words, love, it is all I would have you say. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
This Day by Julia Caroline Dorr. This is a LibriVox recording. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Rosebud. This Day. I wonder what is this day to you, looking down from the upper skies? Is there a pang at your gentle heart? Is there a shade in your tender eyes? Do you think up there of the whispered words that thrilled your soul long years ago? Does ever a haunting undertone blend with the chantings sweet and low? When this day dawned, if where you are skies grow red when the morn is near, did you know that before its close the love once yours would be on its bier? Did you know that another's lip would redden with kisses once your own, and the golden cup of a younger life o'erflow with the wine once yours alone? Do you remember? Ah, my saint, bend your ear from the ether blue. Have you risen to heights so far that earth and its loves are naught to you? Do you care that your place is filled? Does it matter that now, at last, the turf above you has grown so deep that its shadow overlies your past? O beloved, I may not know. Heaven is afar, and the grave is dumb, and out of the silence so profound neither token nor voice may come. We try to think that we understand, but whether you wake, or whether you sleep, or whether our deeds are aught to you, is still a mystery strange and deep. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Christus by Julia Caroline Dorr. Read for LibriVox.org by DomBombadil. Over the desolate seaside town, with terrible tumult, the night came down, and the fierce wind swept through the empty street, with the drifting snow for a winding sheet. Elsie, the fisherman's daughter, in bed, lay and listened in awe and dread, but sprang to her feet in sudden fear, when over the tempest, loud and clear, a voice cried, Christus, 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 and nothing more. Was it a cry at a cottage door? She left her chamber with flying feet, she loosened the bolts with fingers fleet. She lifted the latch, but only the din of the furious storm and the snow swept in. She looked without, not a soul was there, but still rang out on the startled air the strange cry, Christus, Christus, Christus. She slept at last, though the old house rocked in the wintry blast. When she awoke the world was still, a wide, white silence from sea to hill. No creature stirred in the morning glow, there was not a footprint in the snow. Yet again through the hush, as faint as far, as if it came from another star, a voice sighed, Christus, Christus, Christus. Who can it be, O Christ, our Lord, that is calling thee? in a foreign tongue, with a woe as wild as that of some lost, forsaken child. She turned from the window with a startled gaze, she clasped her hands in a pale amaze, hearkening still, till again she heard, as in a waking dream, the word, that strange word, Christus. Then o'er the hill with weary feet she toiled through the drifts to the village street. The villagers gathered in eager haste, and all day long in the snowy waste they sought in vain for the one who cried to him who of old was crucified. Then turning away with a laugh they said, "'Twas only the wild wind overhead, your cry of Christus." She watched their going with earnest eyes. Hark! What voice to the taunt replies? The trees were still as if struck with death. The wind was soft as a baby's breath. The sobbing sea was asleep at last, scourged no more by the furious blast. Yet surely as ever from human tongue a cry of grief or despair was wrung, some voice sighed, Christus. Burnt on her cheek a sudden flame, so heart-strung throbbings went and came, and she stood alone on the lonely shore, gazing the wide black waters o'er. Whether it comes from heaven or hell, this voice I have learned to know too well. Whether from lips alive or dead, or from the hovering air, she said. Whether it comes from sea or land, I will not sleep till I understand this cry of Christus. Christus, Christus, faint and slow, rose the wail from the drifted snow, under a low-browed beetling rock, strong to withstand the whirlwind's shock. There in the heart of the snowy mound, the buried form of a man she found, a Spanish sailor with beard of brown, over his red scarf flowing down, and jeweled ears that were strange to see. She was bending over it when, ah me, the shrill cry, Christus, rang out as if from the stony lips, whence life had parted in drear eclipse. As if the soul of the dead man cried again unto Christ the crucified. The rose had fled from her cheeks so red, but still she knelt by his side and said, under her breath, I must understand, whether from heaven or sea or land comes that cry, Christus. She laid her hand on the pulseless breast. What fluttered beneath their crimson vest? A bird with plumage of green and gold, nestling away from the piercing cold, was folded close to the silent heart, from which it had felt the life depart. And when she held it against her cheek, as plainly as ever a bird could speak, it sobbed out, Christus. And evermore when the winds blew loud, and the trees in the grasp of the storm were bowed, and the lowering wings of the tempest beat the drifting snow in the village street, just as its master in death had cried to Christ the Holy, the crucified, pouring his soul in one wild word, pray God that the cry in heaven was heard. The bird cried, Christus. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Kiss by Julia Caroline Dorr. Read for LibriVox.org by DomBombadil. When you lay before me dead, in your pallid rest, on those passive lips of thine, not one kiss I pressed. Did you wonder, looking down from some higher sphere, knowing how we two had loved many and many a year? Did you think me strange and cold when I did not touch, even with reverent fingertips, what I had loved so much? Ah, when last you kissed me, dear, know you what you said? Take this last kiss, my beloved, soon shall I be dead. Keep it for a solemn sign, through our love's long night, till you give it back again on some morning bright. So I gave you no caress, but, remembering this, Warm upon my lips I keep your last living kiss. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
What She Thought by Julia Caroline Dorr. Read for LibriVox.org by Vetta. Marian showed me her wedding gown and her veil of gossamer lace tonight, and the orange blooms that tomorrow morn shall fade in her soft hair's golden light. But Philip came to the open door, like the heart of a wild rose glowed her cheek, and they wandered off through the garden paths, so blessed that they did not care to speak. I wonder how it seems to be loved, to know you are fair in someone's eyes, that upon someone your beauty dawns every day as a new surprise. To know that whether you weep or smile, whether your mood be grave or gay, someone thinks you all the while sweeter than any flower of May. I wonder what it would be to love. That, I think, would be sweeter far, to know that one out of all the world was lord of your life, your king, your star. They talk of love's sweet tumult and pain. I am not sure that I understand, though a thrill ran down to my fingertips once when somebody touched my hand. I wonder what it would be to dream of a child that might one day be your own, of the hidden springs of your life apart, flesh of your flesh, and bone of your bone. Marian stooped one day to kiss a beggar's babe with a tender grace, while some sweet thought like a prophecy looked from her pure Madonna face. I wonder what it must be to think tomorrow will be your wedding day, and you in the radiant sunset glow down fragrant flowery paths will stray, as Marian does this blessed night, with Philip lost in a blissful dream. Can she feel his heart through the silence beat? Does he see her eyes in the starlight gleam? Questioning thus, my days go on, but never an answer comes to me. All love's mysteries, sweet as strange, sealed away from my life must be. Yet still I dream, O heart of mine, of a beautiful city that lies afar, and there sometime I shall drop the mask and be shapely and fair as others are. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
What Need by Julia Caroline Dorr. Read for LibriVox.org by Vetta. What need has the singer to sing, and why should your poet today his pale little garland of poesy bring on the altar to lay? High priest of song, the harp-strings swept ages before he smiled or wept. What need have the roses to bloom, and why do the tall lilies grow, and why do the violets shed their perfume when night winds breathe low? They are no whit more bright and fair than flowers that breathed in Eden's air. What need have the stars to shine on, or the clouds to grow red in the west, when the sun, like a king, from the fields he has won, goes grandly to rest? No brighter they than stars and skies that greeted Eve's sweet wondering eyes. What need has the eagle to soar so proudly straight up to the sun, or the robin such jubilant music to pour when day is begun? The eagle soared, the robin sung, as high as sweet when earth was young. What need, do you ask me? Each day hath a song and a prayer of its own, as each June hath its crown of fresh roses, each May its bright emerald throne. Its own high thought each age shall stir, each needs its own interpreter. And thou, Oh, my poet, sing on, until love shall grow old, till patience and faith their last triumphs have won, and truth is a tale that is told. Doubt not, thy song shall still be new, while life endures, and God is true. End of poem. This poem is in the public domain. 2. By Julia Carolyn Dorr. Read for LibriVox.org by Vetta. 2. We too will stand in the shadow here, to see the bride as she passes by. Ring soft and low, ring loud and clear, ye chiming bells that swing on high. Look, look, she comes. The air grows sweet with the fragrant breath of the orange bloom, and the flowers she treads beneath her feet die in a flood of rare perfumes. She comes, she comes. The happy bells with joyous clamor fill the air, while the great organ dies and swells, soaring to trembling heights of prayer. Oh, rare are her robes of silken sheen, and the pearls that gleam on her bosom's snow, but rarer the grace of her royal mien, her hair's fine gold, and her cheeks' young glow. Dainty and fair as a folded rose, fresh as a violet dewy sweet, chaste as a lily, she hardly knows that there are rough paths for other feet. For love hath shielded her, honor kept watch beside her night and day, and evil out from her sight hath crept, trailing its long length far away. Now in her perfect womanhood, in all the wealth of her matchless charms, lovely and beautiful, pure and good, she yields herself to her lover's arms. Hark, how the jubilant voices ring! Lo, as we stand in the shadow here, while far above us the gay bells swing, I watch the gleam of a happy tear. The pageant is over, come with me to the other side of town, I pray, ere the sun goes down in the darkening sea, and night falls around us, chill and gray. In the dim church porch an hour ago, we watched the bride's fair face to see. Now life has a sadder sight to show, a darker picture for you and me. No need to seek for the shadow here, there are shadows lurking everywhere. These streets in the darkest day are drear and black as the blackest of despair. But this is the house. Take heed, my friend, the stairs are rotten, the way is dim, and up the flights, as we still ascend, creep stealthy phantoms dark and grim. Enter this chamber, day by day alone, in this chill and ghostly room. A child, a woman, which is it, pray, despairingly waits for the hour of doom. Ah, as she wrings her hands so pale, no gleam of a wedding ring you see. There is nothing to tell. You know the tale. God help her now in her misery. I dare not judge her, I only know that love was to her a sin and a snare, while to the bride of an hour ago it brought all blessings its hands could bear. I only know that to one it came, laden with honor and joy and peace. Its gifts to the other were woe and shame, and a burning pain that shall never cease. I only know that the soul of one has been a pearl in a golden case, that of the other a pebble thrown idly down in a wayside place, where all day long strange footsteps trod, and the bold bright sun drank up the dew. Yet both were women. O righteous God, thou only canst judge between the two. End of poem. This poem is in the public domain. Unanswered by Julia Caroline Dorr. Read for LibriVox.org by Vetta. Unanswered. Where mountain peaks rose far and high into the blue unclouded sky, and waves of green like billowy seas tossed proudly in the freshening breeze. I rode one morning late in June, the glad wind sang a pleasant tune. The air like draughts of rarest wine made every breath a joy divine. With roses all the way was bright, yet there upon that upland height, the darlings of the early spring, blue violets were blossoming. And all the meadows wide unrolled were green and silver, green and gold, where buttercups and daisies spun their shining tissues in the sun. Over its shallow pebbly bed a sparkling river gaily sped, nor cared that deeper waters pour a grander freight from shore to shore. It sung, it danced, it laughed, it played, in sunshine now, and now in shade, while every gnarled tree joyed to make a greener garland for its sake. Deep peace was in the summer air, a peace all nature seemed to share, yet even there I could not flee the shadow of life's mystery. A farmhouse stood beside the way, low-roofed and rambling, quaint and gray, and where the friendly door swung wide, red roses climbed on either side. And thither down the winding road, near which the sparkling river flowed, in groups and pairs the neighbors pressed, each in his Sunday raiment dressed. A sober calm was on each face, sweet stillness brooded o'er the place, yet something of a festal air the youths and maidens seemed to wear. But as I passed, an idle breeze swept through the quivering maple trees, chased by the winds in merry rout, a fair light curtain floated out. And this I saw, a quiet room, adorned with flowers of richest bloom, a lily here, a garland there, fragrance and silence everywhere. Then on I rode, but if a bride should there her happy blushes hide, or if beyond my vision lay some pale face shrouded from the day, I could not tell. O joy and pain, your voices join in one refrain. So like ye are, we may not know if this be gladness, this be woe. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Clay to the Rose by Julia Carolyn Dorr, read for LibriVox.org by Vetta. The Clay to the Rose. O beautiful royal rose, O rose so fair and sweet, queen of the garden art thou, and I the clay at thy feet. The butterfly hovers about thee, the brown bee kisses thy lips, and the hummingbird, reckless rover, their marvelous sweetness sips. The sunshine hastens to caress thee, flying on pinions fleet. The dewdrop sleeps in thy bosom, but I lie at thy feet. The radiant morning crowns thee, and the noon's hot heart is thine, and the starry night enfolds thee in the might of its love divine. I hear the warm rain whisper its message soft and sweet, and the south wind's passionate murmur, while I lie low at thy feet. It is not mine to approach thee, I never may kiss thy lips, or touch the hem of thy garment with tremulous fingertips. Yet, O thou beautiful rose, queen rose so fair and sweet, what were lover or crown to thee without the clay at thy feet? End of poem. This poem is in the public domain.
At the Last by Julia Carolyn Dorr, read for LibriVox.org by DomBombadil. Will the day ever come, I wonder, when I shall be glad to know that my hand will be folded under the next white fall of the snow? To know that when next the clover wooeth the wandering bee, its crimson tide will drift over all that is left of me. Will I ever be tired of living and be glad to go to my rest, with a cool and fragrant lily asleep on my silent breast? Will my eyes grow weary of seeing, as the hours pass one by one, till I long for the hush and the darkness, as I never longed for the sun? God knoweth. Some time it may be I shall smile to hear you say, "Dear heart, she will not waken at the dawn of another day." And some time, love, it may be, I shall whisper under my breath, "The happiest hour of my life, dear, is this, the hour of my death." End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
To the Bouquet Club by Julia Caroline Dorr. Read for LibriVox.org by Ken Masters. O rosebud garland of girls, who ask for a song from me, to what sweet air shall I set my lay? What shall its keynote be? The flowers have gone from wood and hill, the rippling river lies white and still, and the birds that sang on the maple bough afar in the south are singing now. O rosebud garland of girls, if the whole glad year were May, if winds sang low in the clustering leaves, and roses bloomed alway, if youth were all that there is of life, if the years brought nothing of care or strife, nor ever a cloud to the ether blue, it were easy to sing a song for you. Yet, O my garland of girls, is there nothing better than May, the golden glow of the harvest time, the rest of the autumn day? This thought I give to you all to keep. Who soweth good seed shall surely reap. The year grows rich as it groweth old, and life's latest sands are its sands of gold. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Eventide by Julia Caroline Dorr. This is a LibriVox recording. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Rosebud. Eventide. Whenever, with reverent footsteps, I pass through the open door of memory's stately palace, where dwell the days of yore, one scene, like a lovely vision, comes to me o'er and o'er. 'Tis a dim fire-lighted chamber. There are pictures on the wall, and around them dance the shadows, grotesque and weird and tall, as the flames on the storied hearthstone wavering rise and fall. An ancient cabinet stands there that came from beyond the seas, with a breath of spicy odours caught from the Indian breeze, and its fluted doors and mouldings are dark with mysteries. There's an old armchair in the corner, straight-backed and tall and quaint. Ah, many a generation, sinner and sage and saint, it hath held in its ample bosom with murmur nor complaint. In the glow of the firelight playing, a tiny blithesome pair, with the music of their laughter, fill all the tranquil air, a rosy brown-eyed lassie, a boy serenely fair. A woman sits in the shadow, watching the children twain, with a joy so deep and tender it is near akin to pain, and a smile and tear blend softly, sunshine and April rain. Her heart keeps time to the rhythm of love's unuttered prayer, as with still hands lightly folded she listens unaware, through all the children's laughter, for a footfall on the stair. I know the woman who sits there. Time hath been kind to her, and the years have brought her treasures of frankincense and myrrh, richer perhaps and rarer than life's young roses were. But I doubt if ever her spirit hath known, or yet shall know, the bliss of a happier hour, as the swift years come and go, than this in the shadowy chamber, lit by the hearth fire's glow. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
My Lovers by Julia Caroline Dorr. Read for LibriVox.org by Shakira Searle. I have 4 noble lovers, young and gallant, blithe and gay, and in all the land no maiden hath a goodlier troop than they. And never princess, guarded by knights of high degree, knew sweeter, purer homage than my lovers pay to me. One of my noble lovers is a self-poised, thoughtful man, gravely gay, serenely earnest, strong to do, and bold to plan. And one is sweet and sunny, pure as crystal, true as steel, with a soul responding ever when the truth makes high appeal. And another of my lovers, bright and debonair is he, brave and ardent, strong and tender, and the flower of courtesy. Last of all, an eager student, upon lofty aims intent, manly force and gentle sweetness, in his nature rarely blent. But when of noble lovers, all alike are dear and true, and her heart to choose refuses, pray what can a woman do? Ah, my sons, for this I bless ye, even as I myself am blessed, that I know not which is dearest, that I care not which is best. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Legend of the Organ Builder by Julia Caroline Dorr. Read for LibriVox.org by K. Hand. Day by day the organ builder in his lonely chamber wrought. Day by day the soft air trembled to the music of his thought. Till at last the work was ended, and no organ voice so grand ever yet had soared responsive to the Master's magic hand. Aye, so rarely was it builded, that whenever groom or bride, who in God's sight were well pleasing in the church, stood side by side, without touch or breath the organ of itself began to play, and the very airs of heaven through the soft gloom seemed to stray. He was young, the organ builder, and o'er all the land his fame ran with fleet and eager footsteps, like a swiftly rushing flame. All the maidens heard the story, all the maidens blushed and smiled, by his youth and wondrous beauty and his great renown beguiled. So he sought and won the fairest, and the wedding day was set. Happy day, the brightest jewel in the glad year's coronet. But when they the portal entered, he forgot his lovely bride, forgot his love, forgot his God, and his heart swelled high with pride. Ah, thought he, how great a master am I! When the organ plays, how the vast cathedral arches will re-echo with my praise. Up the aisle the gay procession moved. The altar shone afar, with its every candle gleaming through soft shadows like a star. But he listened, 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 with no thought of love or prayer, for the swelling notes of triumph from his organ standing there. All was silent. Nothing heard he save the priest's low monotone, and the bride's robe trailing softly o'er the floor of fretted stone. Then his lips grew white with anger. Surely God was pleased with him who had built the wondrous organ for his temple vast and dim. Whose the fault then? Hers, the maiden standing meekly at his side. Flamed his jealous rage, maintaining she was false to him, his bride. Vain were all her protestations, vain her innocence and truth. On that very night he left her to her anguish and her ruth. Far he wandered to a country wherein no man knew his name. For 10 weary years he dwelt there, nursing still his wrath and shame. Then his haughty heart grew softer, and he thought by night and day of the bride he had deserted, till he hardly dared to pray. Thought of her, a spotless maiden, fair and beautiful and good. Thought of his relentless anger that had cursed her womanhood. Till his yearning grief and penitence at last were all complete, and he longed with bitter longing just to fall down at her feet. Ah, how throbbed his heart when, after many a weary day and night, rose his native towers before him, with the sunset glow alight. Through the gates into the city on he pressed with eager tread. There he met a long procession, mourners following the dead. "Now why weep ye so, good people, and whom bury ye to-day? Why do yonder sorrowing maidens scatter flowers along the way? Has some saint gone up to heaven?" "Yes," they answered, weeping sore, "for the organ builder's saintly wife our eyes shall see no more. And because her days were given to the service of God's poor, from his church we mean to bury her. See, yonder is the door." No one knew him. No one wondered when he cried out, white with pain. No one questioned when, with pallid lips, he poured his tears like rain. "'Tis some one whom she has comforted who mourns with us," they said, as he made his way unchallenged and bore the coffin's head. Bore it through the open portal, bore it up the echoing aisle, set it down before the altar where the lights burned clear the while. When, oh hark, the wondrous organ of itself began to play strains of rare, unearthly sweetness never heard until that day. All the vaulted arches rang with the music sweet and clear, all the air was filled with glory as of angels hovering near. And ere yet the strain was ended, he who bore the coffin's head, with the smile of one forgiven, gently sank beside it, dead. They who raised the body knew him, and they laid him by his bride. Down the aisle and o'er the threshold they were carried side by side, while the organ played a dirge that no man ever heard before, and then softly sank to silence, silence kept for evermore. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Butterfly and Baby Blue by Julia Caroline Dorr. Read for LibriVox.org by Christine G. Butterfly and Baby Blue, did you come together, floating down the summer skies, in the summer weather? Seems to me you're much alike, airy, fairy creatures, though I small resemblance find in your tiny features. Butterfly has gauzy wings, bright with jeweled splendor. Baby Blue has pink-white arms, rosy, warm, and tender. Butterfly has golden rings, charming each beholder. Baby wears a knot of blue on each dimpled shoulder. Butterfly is never still, always in a flutter, and of dainty Baby Blue the same truth I utter. Butterfly on happy wing in the sunshine dances. Baby Blue for sunshine has mother smiles and glances. Butterfly seeks honeydew in a lily palace. Baby Blue finds nectar sweet in a snow-white chalice. Butterfly will furl its wings when the air grows colder, while dear Baby Blue will be just a trifle older. Ah, the days are growing short, soon the birds will leave us, and of all the garden flowers cruel frost berave us. Butterfly and Baby Blue do not go together, sailing through the autumn skies in the autumn weather. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
King Ivan's Oath by Julia Caroline Dorr. Read for LibriVox.org by K. Hand. King Ivan ruled a mighty land, girt by the sea on either hand, a goodly land as e'er the sun in its long journey looked upon. His knights were loyal, brave, and true, eager their lord's behests to do. His counselors were wise and just, nor ever failed his kingly trust. The nations praised him, and the state grew powerful and rich and great, while still with long and loud acclaim his people hailed their monarch's name. Fronting the east a stately pile, the palace caught the sun's first smile. Lightly its domes and arches sprung as earth's glad hills when earth was young, and miracles of airy grace each tower and turret soared in space. Within, but here no rhythmic flow of words with light and warmth aglow can tell the story. Not more fair are your own castles hung in air. Painter and sculptor there had wrought the utmost beauty of their thought. There the rich fruit of Persian looms glowed darkly bright as tropic blooms. There fell the light like golden mist filtered through clouds of amethyst. There bright winged birds and odorous flowers with song and fragrance filled the hours. There pleasure flung in the portals wide, and soul and sense were satisfied. The queen? No fairer face than hers e'er smiled upon its worshippers. And she was good as fair, 'twas said, and loved the king ere they were wed. And he? No doubt he loved her too, after a kingly fashion, knew she had a right his throne to share, and would be mother of his heir. But yet, to do him justice, he sometimes forgot his royalty, forgot his kingly crown, and then loved and made love like other men. There seemed no shadow near the throne, yet oft the great king walked alone, hands clasped behind him, head bowed down, and on his royal face a frown. Sat Mordecai within his gate? What scoffing spectre mocked his state? What demon held him in a spell? Alas, the sweet queen knew too well. Apples of Sodom ate he since she had not borne to him a prince, though thrice his hope had budded fair and he had counted on an heir. 3 little daughters, dainty girls, with sunshine tangled in their curls, bloomed in the palace, but no son, though long expected, waited one. Flower of the state and pride of all, grew at the king's side, straight and tall. The king was angered. It may be no worse than other men was he, but a high tower upon a hill his light shone far for good or ill. In from the chase one day he rode, to the queen's chamber fierce he strode, where bending o'er her broidery frame, her pale cheeks burned with sudden flame at his quick coming. Up she rose, stirred from her wonted calm repose, a lily flushing when the sun its stately beauty looked upon. Alas, alas, so blind was he, or else he did not care to see. He had no pity though she stood in perfect flower of womanhood. "You bear to me no son," he said, then flinging back his haughty head. "Each base-born peasant has an heir, his name to keep, his crust to share, while I, the king of this broad land, have no son near my throne to stand. Who then shall reign when I am dead? Who wield the scepter in my stead, inherit all my pride and power, and wear my glory as his dower? Give me a man-child who shall be lord of the realm, himself and me." Then pallid lips made slow reply, "God ordereth, not you nor I." His brow flushed hot, a sudden clang as of arms throughout the chamber rang, and turning on his heel he threw back wrathful answer, "That may do for puling women, not for me. Now by my good sword we shall see. So help me heaven, I will not brook on a girl's face again to look, and when you next shall bear a child, though fair a babe as ever smiled, if it be not a princely heir, by all the immortal gods I swear I ne'er will speak to it nor break my soul's stern silence for love's sake." Then forth he fared and rode away, nor saw the queen again that day, the hapless queen who to the floor sank prone and breathless, as the door swung to behind him and his tread down the long arches echoed. In truth she was in sorry plight when her maids found her late that night. The king learned that which spoiled his rest, but kept the secret in his breast. At length when months had duly sped, high streamed the banners overhead, and all the bells rang out at morn in jubilant peals, a prince was born. Now let the joyous music ring, now let the merry minstrels sing, now pour the wine and crown the feast with fruits and flowers of all the East. Now let the votive candles shine and garlands bloom on every shrine, now let the young with flying feet time to bewildering music beat, and let the old their joys rehearse in stirring tale or flowing verse. Now fill with shouts the waiting air and scatter largesse everywhere. Ah, who so happy as the king? Swift flew the hours on eager wing, and the boy grew apace, until the second summer, sweet and still, dropped roses round him as he played where arched the leafy colonnade. How fair he was tongue cannot say, but he was fairer than the day, and never princely coronet on brow of nobler mould was set, nor ever did its jewels gleam above an eye of brighter beam, and never yet where sunshine falls flooding with light the cottage walls, mid hum of bee or song of birds, or tenderest breath of loving words, blossomed a sweeter child than he. How the king joyed his strength to see, counting the weeks that flew so fast, each fuller, happier than the last. 6 months had passed since he could walk, was it not time the prince should talk? Ah, baby words with tripping feet, ah, baby laughter, silver sweet. At length within the palace rose rumors so strange that friends and foes forgot their love, forgot their hate, pausing to croon and speculate. Vague whispers floated in the air, a hint of mystery here and there, a sudden hush, a startled glance, quick silences and looks askance. Thus day by day the wonder grew, till o'er the kingdom wide it flew. The prince, his father, what was this? Strange tale so surely told amiss. The young prince dumb? Who dared to say that nature such a prank could play? Dumb to the king? In silence bound, with voiceless lips that gave no sound when the king questioned? Yet no lute, nor chiming bell, nor silver flute, nor lark's song high in either hung, rang clearer than the prince's tongue. The court physicians came and went, learned men from all the continent gave wise opinions, talked of laws, stroked their graybeards, nor found the cause. Then bribes were tried, and threats. The child, as one bewildered, sighed and smiled, and a wild storm of weeping broke, moved its red lips, but never spoke. The changeful years rolled on apace, the young prince wore a bearded face, the good queen died, the king grew gray, a generation passed away. Courtiers forgot to tell the tale, gossip itself grew old and stale, but never once in all the years that bore such fright of joy and tears was the spell broken, not one word from son to sire was ever heard. Mutely his father's face he scanned, mutely he clasped his aged hand, mutely he kissed him when at last to death's long slumber forth he passed. Come weal or woe he could not break the mystic silence for love's sake. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
At Dawn by Julia Caroline Dorr. Read for LibriVox.org by Ken Masters. At dawn, when the jubilant morning broke and its glory flooded the mountainside, I said, "'Tis 11 years today, 11 years since my darling died." And then I turned to my household ways, to my daily tasks without, within, as happily busy all the day as if my darling had never been, as if she had never lived or died. Yet when they buried her out of sight, I thought the sun had gone down at noon, and the day could never again be bright. Ah, well, as the swift years come and go, it will not be long ere I shall lie somewhere under a bit of turf, with my pale hands folded quietly. And then some one who has loved me well, perhaps the one who has loved me best, will say of me as I said of her, "She has been just so many years at rest." Then turn to the living loves again, to the busy life without, within. And the day will go on from dawn to dusk, even as if I had never been. Dear hearts, it must still be so. The roses will bloom and the stars will shine, and the soft green grass creep still and slow, sometime over a grave of mine, and over the grave in your hearts as well. Ye cannot hinder it if ye would, and I shall be wiser then, I would not hinder it if I could. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. In Memoriam by Julia Caroline Dorr. Read for LibriVox.org by Ken Masters. Cyrus M. and Mary Ripley Fisher lost on steamship Atlantic, April 1st, 1873. Once long ago, with trembling lips I sung of one who, when the earliest flowers were seen, so sweet, so dear, so beautiful and young, came home to sleep where kindred graves were green. Soft was the turf we raised to give her room, clear were the raindrops shining as they fell. Sweet the arbutus with its tender bloom, brightening the couch of her who loved it well. Yet in our blindness how we wept that day, when the earth fell upon her coffin lid. O ye beloved whom I sing this day, could we but know where your dear forms lie hid! Could we but lay you down by her dear side, wrapped in the garments of eternal rest, where the still hours in slow succession glide, and not a dream may stir the pulseless breast, where all day long the shadows come and go, and soft winds murmur and sweet songbirds sing, where all night long the starlight's tender glow falls where the flowers you loved are blossoming. Then should the tempest of our grief grow calm, then moaning gales should vex our souls no more, and the clear swelling of our thankful psalm should drown the beat of surges on the shore. But the deep sea will not give up its dead. O ye who know where your beloved sleep, bid heart's ease bloom on each love-guarded bed, and bless your God for graves whereon to weep. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Weaving the Web by Julia Caroline Dorr. This is a LibriVox recording. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Rosebud. Weaving the Web. This morn I will weave my web, she said, as she stood by her loom in the rosy light, and her young eyes, hopefully glad and clear, followed afar the swallow's flight. As soon as the day's first tasks are done, while yet I am fresh and strong, said she, I will hasten to weave the beautiful web whose pattern is known to none but me. I will weave it fine, I will weave it fair, and how the colours will glow, she said. So fadeless and strong will I weave my web that perhaps it will live after I am dead. But the morning hours sped on apace. The air grew sweet with the breath of June, and young love hid by the waiting loom, tangling the threads as he hummed a tune. Ah, life is so rich and full, she cried, and morn is short though the days are long. This noon I will weave my beautiful web, I will weave it carefully, fine and strong. But the sun rode high in the cloudless sky. The burden and heat of the day she bore, and hither and thither she came and went, while the loom stood still as it stood before. "Ah, life is too busy at noon," she said. "My web must wait till the eventide, till the common work of the day is done, and my heart grows calm in the silence wide." So, one by one, the hours passed on, till the creeping shadows had longer grown, till the house was still, and the breezes slept, and her singing birds to their nests had flown. "And now I will weave my web," she said, as she turned to her loom ere set of sun, and laid her hand on the shining threads to set them in order one by one. But hand was tired, and heart was weak. "I am not as strong as I was," sighed she, "and the pattern is blurred, and the colours rare are not so bright or so fair to see. I must wait, I think, till another morn. I must go to my rest with my work undone. It is growing too dark to weave," she cried, as lower and lower sank the sun. She dropped the shuttle, the loom stood still, the weaver slept in the twilight grey. Dear heart, will she weave her beautiful web in the golden light of a longer day? End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Christus of the Passion Play of Oberammergau by Julia Caroline DORR. Read for LibriVox.org by DomBombadil. How does life seem to thee? I long to look into thine inmost soul, and see if thou art even as other men. O, set apart and consecrate so long to purpose high, canst thou take up again our common lot, and live as we live? Canst thou buy and sell, stoop to small needs and petty ministries, work and get gain, eat, drink, and soundly sleep, sin and repent, as these thy brethren do? Unto what name less sacred answerest thou, who hast been called the Christ of Nazareth? Thou who hast worn the awful crown of thorns, hanging like him upon the dreadful tree, canst thou, uncrowned, forget thy royalty? End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Rabbi Benaiah by Julia Caroline DORR. Read for LibriVox.org by K. Hand. Rabbi Benaiah at the close of day, when the low sun athwart the level sands shot his long arrows far from eastern lands, homeward across the desert bent his way. Behind him trailed the lengthening caravan, the slow, weird camels with monotonous pace. Before him lifted in the clear, far space, from east to west the towers of his city ran. Impatiently he scanned the darkening sky, then girding in hot haste, "What ho!" cried he, "bring the swift steed Abdallah unto me. As rode his Bedouin master, so will I." Soon like a bird across the waste he flew, nor drew his rein till at the massive gate that guards the citadel's supremest state he paused a moment, slowly entering through. Then down the shadowy moonlit streets he sped. The city slept, but like a burning star, where his own turret chamber rose afar, a clear strong light its steady radiance shed. Into his court he rode with sudden clang. The startled slaves bowed low, but spake no word. By no quick tumult was the midnight stirred, no shouts of welcome on the night air rang. But with slow footsteps down the turret stairs, with trembling lips that hardly breathed his name, and sad averted eyes, his fair wife came, the Lady Judith, wan with tears and prayers. Then swift he cried out, less in wrath than fear, "Now by my beard, is this the way ye keep my welcome home? Go, wake my sons from sleep, and let their glad tongues break the silence here." "Not so, my lord, let them rest," she said. "Young eyes need slumber. But come thou with me, I have a trouble to make known to thee, ere I before thee can lift up my head." Into an inner chamber led she him, and with her own hands brought him meat and wine, a purple robe, and linen pure and fine. He half forgot that her sweet eyes were dim. "Now for thy trouble," cried he, laughing loud. "Hast torn thy kirtle? Are thy pearls astray? What, tears? My camels o'er yon desert way bring treasures that had made Queen Esther proud." Slowly she spake, nor in his face looked she. "My lord, long years ago a friend of mine left me with jewels costly, rare, and fine, bidding me guard them carefully till he again should call for them. The other day he sent his messenger, but I have learned to prize them as my own. Have I not earned a right to keep them? Speak, my lord, I pray." "Strange sense of honor hath a woman's heart," the rabbi answered hotly. "Now good luck, where are the jewels? I will send them back ere yet the sun upon his course may start." "Show me the jewels." Up she rose as white as any ghost, and mutely led the way Into the turret chamber whence the ray seen from afar had blessed the rabbi's sight. Then with slow trembling hands she drew aside the silken curtain from before the bed, Whereon in snowy calm their boys lay dead. "There are the jewels, O my lord," she cried. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
A Child's Thought by Julia Caroline Dorr. Read for LibriVox.org by Christine G. Softly fell the twilight in the glowing west. Purple splendors faded, birds had gone to rest. All the winds were sleeping. One lone whip-poor will made the silence deeper, calling from the hill. Silently, serenely, from his mother's knee, in the gathered darkness, still as still could be, a young child watched the shadows, saw the stars come out, saw the weird bats flitting stealthily about, saw across the river how the furnace glow, like a fairy pennant, wavered to and fro, saw the tall dress standing, black against the sky, and the moon's pale crescent, swinging far and high. Deeper grew the darkness, darker grew his eyes, as he gazed around him, in a still surprise. Then intently listening, "What is this I hear? All the time, dear mother, sounding in my ear?" "I hear nothing," said she, "earth is hushed and still." But he hearkened, hearkened, with an eager will, till at length a quick smile over the child face broke, and a kindling lustre in his dark eyes woke. "Listen, listen, mother, for I hear the sound of the wheels, the great wheels that move the world around. O ears earth has dulled not, in your purest fare, strains from ours withholden, are you wise to hear?" End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
God Knows by Julia Caroline Dorr. Read for LibriVox.org by Vetta. God Knows. Wild and dark was the winter night when the immigrant ship went down. But just outside the harbor bar, in the sight of the startled town, the winds howled and the sea roared, and never a soul could sleep, save the little ones on their mother's breast, too young to watch and weep. No boat could live in the angry surf, no rope could reach the land. There were bold, brave hearts upon the shore, there was many a ready hand, women who prayed and men who strove, when prayers and work were vain. For the sun rose over the awful void and the silence of the main. All day the watchers paced the sands, all day they scanned the deep. All night the booming minute guns echoed from steep to steep. "Give up thy dead, O cruel sea!" they cried athwart the space, but only an infant's fragile form escaped from its stern embrace. Only one little child of all who with the ship went down, that night when the happy baby slept so warm in the sheltered town. Wrapped in the glow of the morning light, it lay on the shifting sand, as fair as a sculptor's marble dream, with a shell in its dimpled hand. There were none to tell of its race or kin. God knoweth, the pastor said, when the wondering children asked of him the name of the baby dead.
And so when they laid it away at last, in the churchyard's hushed repose, they raised a stone at the baby's head with the carven words, God knows. End of poem. This poem is in the public domain.
The Mountain Road by Julia Caroline Dorr. Read for LibriVox.org by Algy. Only a glimpse of mountain road that followed where a river flowed. Only a glimpse. Then on we passed, skirting the forest dim and vast. I closed my eyes. On rushed the train into the dark, then out again, startling the songbirds as it flew, the wild ravines and gorges through. But, heeding not the dangerous way o'erhung by sheer cliffs, rough and grey, I only saw, as in a dream, the road beside the mountain stream. No smoke curled upward in the air, no meadowland stretched broad and fair, but towering peaks rose far and high, piercing the clear, untroubled sky. Yet down the yellow winding road that followed where the river flowed, I saw a long procession pass, as shadows over bending grass. The young, the old, the sad, the gay, whose feet had worn that narrow way, since first within the dusky glade some Indian lover wooed his maid. Or silent crept from tree to tree, spirit of stealthy vengeance he, or breathless, crouched while through the brake the wild deer stole his thirst to slake. The barefoot schoolboys rushing out, an eager crowding roisterous rout, the sturdy lads, the lassies gay as bobolinks in merry May, the farmer whistling to his team when first the dawn begins to gleam, the loaded wains that one by one drag slowly home at set of sun. Young lovers straying hand in hand within a fair enchanted land, and many a bride with lingering feet, and many a matron calm and sweet, and many an old man bent with pain, and many a solemn funeral train, and sometimes, red against the sky, an army's banners waving high. All mysteries of life and death, to which the Spirit answereth, are thine, O lonely mountain road, that followed where the river flowed. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Entering In by Julia Caroline Dorr. Read for LibriVox.org by Larry Wilson. The church was dim and silent with the hush before the prayer. Only the solemn trembling of the organ stirred the air. Without, the sweet still sunshine. Within, the holy calm, where priest and people waited for the swelling of the psalm. Slowly the door swung open, and a trembling baby girl, brown-eyed with brown hair falling in many a wavy curl, with soft cheeks flushing hotly, shy glances downward thrown, and small hands clasped before her, stood in the aisle alone. Stood half abashed, half frightened, unknowing where to go, while like a wind-rocked flower her form swayed to and fro, and the changing color fluttered in the little troubled face, as from side to side she wavered with a mute, imploring grace. It was but for a moment. What wonder that we smiled by such a strange, sweet picture from holy thoughts beguiled? Then uprose someone softly, and many an eye grew dim as through the tender silence he bore the child with him. And I wondered, losing the sermon and the prayer, if when sometime I enter the many mansions fair, and stand abashed and drooping in the portal's golden glow, our God will send an angel and show me where to go. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
A Flower for the Dead by Julia Caroline Dorr. Read for LibriVox.org by Christine G. You place this flower in her hand, you say? This pure pale rose in her hand of clay? Could she but lift her sealed eyes, they would meet your own with grieved surprise. She has been your wife for many a year, when clouds hung low and when skies were clear. At your feet she laid her life's glad spring, and her summer's glorious blossoming. Her whole heart went with the hand you won. If its warm love waned as the years went on, if it chilled in the grasp of an icy spell, what was the reason? I pray you tell. You cannot, I can, and beside her bier, my soul must speak and your soul must hear. If she was not all that she might have been, hers was the sorrow, yours was the sin. Whose was the fault if she did not grow like a rose in the summer, do you know? Does a lily grow when its leaves are chilled? Does it bloom when its root is winter killed? For a little while, when you first were wed, your love was like sunshine and round she shed. Then as something crept between you two, you led where she could not follow you. With a man's firm tread you went and came, you lived for wealth, for power, for fame, shot into her woman's work and ways, she heard the nation chant your praise. But ah, you had dropped her hand the while, what time had you for a kiss, a smile? You two, with the same roof overhead, were as far apart as the sundered dead. You in your manhood's strength and prime, she worn and faded before her time. 'Tis a common story, this rose, you say, you laid in her pallid hand to-day. When did you give her a flower before? Ah, well, what matter when all is over? Yet stay a moment, you'll read again. I mean no reproach, 'tis the way of men. But I pray you think when some fairer face shines like a star from her wonted place, that love will starve if it is not fed, that true hearts pray for their daily bread. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Thou Knowest by Julia Caroline Dorr. Read for LibriVox.org by Newgatenovelist. Thou knowest, O my Father, why should I weary high heaven with restless prayers and tears? Thou knowest all. My heart's unuttered cry hath soared beyond the stars and reached thine ears. Thou knowest, ah, thou knowest, then what need, O loving God, to tell thee o'er, and with persistent iteration plead as one who crieth at some closed door? Tease not, we mothers to our children say, our wiser love will grant whate'er is best. Shall we, thy children, run to thee alway, begging for this and that in wild unrest? I dare not clamour at the heavenly gate, lest I should lose the high, sweet strains within. O love divine, I can but stand and wait till perfect wisdom bids me enter in. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Winter by Julia Caroline Dorr. Read for LibriVox.org by Ken Masters. Oh, my roses lying underneath the snow, do you still remember summer's warmth and glow? Do you thrill remembering how your blushes burned when the day god on you ardent glances turned? Great tree, wildly stretching bare arms up to heaven, do you think how softly on some warm June even all your young leaves whispered, all your birds sang low, as with rhythmic motion boughs swayed to and fro? River lying whitely in a frozen sleep, know you how your pulses used to throb and leap? How you danced and sparkled on your happy way in the summer mornings when the world was gay? Dear earth, dumbly waiting God's appointed time, are you faint with longing for the voice sublime? Wrapped in stony silence, does your great heart beat, listening in the darkness for the coming of His feet? End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Five, by Julia Caroline Dorr, read for LibriVox.org by Ezwa, in Belgium, in March 2015.
"But a week is so long,"
he said, with a toss of his curly head.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 whole days! Why, in 6, you know. You said it yourself, you told me so. The great God up in heaven made all the earth and the seas and skies, the trees and the birds and the butterflies. How can I wait for my seeds to grow? But a month is so long, he said with a droop of his boyish head. Hear me count. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 whole weeks and 3 days more. 31 days, and each will creep as the shadows crawl over yonder steep. 31 nights, and I shall lie watching the stars climb up the sky. How can I wait till a month is over? But a year is so long, he said, uplifting his bright young head. All the seasons must come and go over the hills with footsteps slow, autumn and winter, summer and spring. Oh, for a bridge of gold to fling over the chasm deep and wide, that I might cross to the other side, where she is waiting, my love, my bride. 10 years may be long, he said, slow raising his stately head. But there's much to win, there is much to lose. A man must labor, a man must choose, and he must be strong to wait. The years may be long, but who would wear the crown of honor must do and dare. No time has he to toy with fate, who would climb to manhood's high estate. Ah, life is not long, he said, bowing his grand white head. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 times 10 are 70. 70 years! As swift their flight as swallows cleaving the morning light, or golden gleams at even. Life is short as a summer night. How long, O God, is eternity? End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Unsolved, by Julia Caroline Dorr. Read for LibriVox.org by Algy. 'Tis the old unanswered question. Since the stars together sung in the glory of the morning, when the earth was fair and young, man hath asked it o'er and over of the heavens so far and high, and from out the mystic silence never voice hath made reply. Yet again to-night I ask it, though I know, O friend of mine, there will come to all my asking never answering voice of thine. Ah, how many times the grasses have grown green above thy grave, and how many times above it have we heard the cold winds rave! Thou hast solved the eternal problem that the ages hold in fee. Thou dost know what we but dream of. Where we marvel, thou dost see. What is truth and what is fable? What the prophets saw who trod in their rapt ecstatic visions up the holy mount of God? Not of these high themes I question, but, O friend, I fain would know how beyond the silent river all the long years come and go. Where they are, our well-beloved, who have vanished from our sight, as the stars fade out of heaven at the dawning of the light. How they live, and how they love there, in the somewhere of our dreams, in the city lying foursquare by the everlasting streams. Oh, the mystery of being! Which is better, life or death? Thou hast tried them both, O comrade, yet thy voice ne'er answereth. Hast thou grown as grow the angels? Doth thy spirit still aspire as the flame that soareth upward, mounting higher still and higher? In the flush of early manhood all thy earthly days were done, short thy struggle and endeavour ere the peace of heaven was won. But for us who stayed behind thee, oh, our hands are worn with toil, and upon our souls, it may be, are the stains of earthly moil. Hast thou kept the lofty beauty and the glory of thy youth? Dost thou see our temples whitening, smiling softly in thy ruth? But for us who bear the burdens that you dropped so long ago, all the cares you have forgotten, and the pains you missed, we know. Yet the question still remaineth, which is better, death or life? The not doing or the doing? Joy of calm or joy of strife? Which is better, to be saved from temptation and from sin, or to wrestle with the dragon and the glorious fight to win? Ah, we know not, but God knoweth. All resolves itself to this, that he gave to us the warfare, and to thee the heavenly bliss. It was best for thee to go hence in the morning of the day. Till the evening shadows lengthen, it is best for us to stay. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Quietness by Julia Caroline Dorr. Read for LibriVox.org by Rosebud. I would be quiet, Lord, nor tease, nor fret. Not one small need of mine wilt thou forget. I am not wise to know what most I need. I dare not cry too loud, lest thou shouldst heed. Lest thou at length shouldst say, Child, have thy will, as thou hast chosen, lo, thy cup I fill. What I most crave, perchance thou wilt withhold, as we from hands unmeet keep pearls or gold. As we, when childish hands would play with fire, withhold the burning goal of their desire. Yet choose thou for me, thou who knowest best. This one short prayer of mine holds all the rest. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Difference by Julia Caroline Dorr. Read for LibriVox.org by Shakira Searle. Only a week ago, and thou wert here. I touched thy hand, I saw thy dear dark eyes, I kissed thy tender lips, I felt thee near, I spake and listened to thy low replies. Today what leagues between us, hill and vale, the rolling prairies and the mighty seas, grey forest reaches where the wild winds wail, and mountain crests uplifted to the breeze. So far thou art, who wert of late so near. The stars we watched have changed not in the skies. Still do thy hyacinth bells their beauty wear, yet half a continent between us lies. But swift as thought along the singing wires there flies a message like a bright-winged bird. All's well, all's well, and ne'er from woodland choirs by gladder music hath the air been stirred. But thou, O thou, who but a week ago passed calmly out beyond our yearning gaze, as some grand ship, all solemnly and slow, sails out of sight beyond the gathering haze. Oh, where art thou? In what far distant realm? What star in yon resplendent fields of light? On what fair isle that no rude seas may whelm dost thou, O brother, find thy home to-night? Or art thou near us? There are those who say that but a breath divides our world from thine, a little cloud that may be blown away, a gossamer veil than spider's web more fine. Dost thou, a shadowy presence, linger near the happy paths that thou wert wont to tread, where woods were still, and shining brooks ran clear, and waving boughs arched greenly overhead? Oh, be thou far or near, it is the same. From thee there floats no message through the air, no glad all's well comes to us in thy name, that we the joy of thy new life may share. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
My Birthday by Julia Caroline Dorr, read for LibriVox.org by Ezwa, in Belgium, in March 2015. My birthday? How many years ago? 20 or 30? Don't ask me. 40 or 50? How can I tell? I do not remember my birth, you see. It is hearsay evidence, nothing more. Once on a time, the legends say, a girl was born, and that girl was I. How can I vouch for the truth, I pray? I know I am here, but when I came, let someone wiser than I am tell. Did this sweet flower you plucked for me know when its bud began to swell? How old am I? You ought to know without any telling of mine, my dear. For when I came to this happy earth, were you not waiting for me here? A dark-eyed boy on the northern hills, chasing the hours with flying feet, did you not know your wife was born by a subtle prescience, faint yet sweet? Did never a breath from the southland come, with sunshine laden and rare perfume, to lift your hair with a soft caress and waken your heart to richer bloom? Not one? Oh, mystery strange as life! To think that we who are now so dear were once in our dreams so far apart, nor cared if the other were far or near. But how old am I? You must tell, just as old as I seem to you. Nor shall I a day older be while life remaineth and love is true. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. A Red Rose by Julia Caroline Dorr, read for LibriVox.org by Rosehip. O rose, my red, red rose, where has thy beauty fled? Low in the west is a sea of fire, but the great white moon soars high and higher as my garden walks I tread. Thy white rose sisters gleam like stars in the darkening sky. They bend their brows with a sudden thrill to the kiss of the night dews soft and still, when the warm south wind floats by. And the stately lilies stand fair in the silvery light, like saintly vestals, pale in prayer. Their pure breath sanctifies the air as its fragrance fills the night. But oh, my red, red rose, my rose with the crimson lips, so bright thou wert in the sunny morn, yet now thou art hiding all forlorn, and thy soul is in drear eclipse. Dost thou mourn thy lover dead, thy lover, the lordly sun? Didst thou see him sink in the glowing west, with pomp of banners above his rest? He shall rise again, sweet one. He shall rise with his eye of fire, and thy passionate heart shall beat, and thy radiant blushes burn again, with the joy of rapture after pain, at the coming of his feet. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
"21" by Julia Caroline Dorr. Read for LibriVox.org by Algy. Grown to man's stature, O my little child, my bird that sought the skies so long ago, my fair sweet blossom, pure and undefiled, how have the years flown since we laid thee low? What have they been to thee? If thou wert here, standing beside thy brothers, tall and fair, with bearded lip and dark eyes shining clear, and glints of summer sunshine in thy hair, I should look up into thy face and say, wavering perhaps, between a tear and smile, O my sweet son, thou art a man to-day, and thou wouldst stoop to kiss my lips the while. But up in heaven, how is it with thee, dear? Art thou a man, to man's full stature grown? Dost thou count time as we do, year by year? And what of all earth's changes hast thou known? Thou hadst not learned to love me. Didst thou take any small germ of love to heaven with thee, that thou hast watched and nurtured for my sake, waiting till I its perfect flower may see? What is it to have lived in heaven always, to have no memory of pain or sin, ne'er to have known in all the calm bright days the jar and fret of earth's discordant din? Thy brothers, they are mortal, they must tread oft-times in rough hard ways with bleeding feet, must fight with dragons, must bewail their dead, and fierce Apollyon face to face must meet. I, who would give my very life for theirs, I cannot save them from earth's pain or loss. I cannot shield them from its griefs or cares. Each human heart must bear alone its cross. Was God then kinder unto thee than them, O thou, whose little life was but a span? Ah, think it not! In all his diadem no star shines brighter than the kingly man, who nobly earns whatever crown he wears, who grandly conquers, or as grandly dies, and the white banner of his manhood bears through all the years uplifted to the skies. What lofty paeans shall the victor greet? What crown resplendent for his brow be fit? O child, if earthly life be bitter sweet, hast thou not something missed in missing it? End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Singing in the Dark by Julia Caroline Dorr. Read for LibriVox.org by Christine G. O ye little warblers flying fast and far from the balmy south land where the roses are, robins red and bluebirds, do ye faint to see how the chill snow blossoms within shrub and tree? Through the snowy valley cold the north winds sweep, Mother Earth hath wakened, turns again in sleep. Silent lies the river in an icy trance, and the frozen meadows wait the sun's hot glance. Dull and grey the skies are, soft and blue were those that so late above you bend at daylight's close. Do ye grieve, remembering all the balm and bloom, all the warmth and sweetness of the starlit gloom? Do ye sadly wonder what strange impulse drew all your flashing pinions to the far ether through? Do ye count in madness that so wide ye strayed from the starry jasmine and the orange shade? Yet this morn I heard ye singing in the dark, songs of such rare sweetness that the world might hark. O ye blessed minstrels, silent not for pain, God is in the heavens, and your sun shall shine again. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Thomas Moore by Julia Caroline Dorr, read for LibriVox.org by Jim McDougall. Hush! O be ye silent, all ye birds of May, cease the high clear trilling of your roundelay. Be the merry minstrels mute in vale, on hill, and in every tree-top that the song be still. O ye winds, breathe softly, let your voices die in a low, faint whisper, sweet as love's first sigh. O ye zephyrs, blowing over beds of flowers, be ye still as dews are in the starry hours. O ye laughing waters, leaping here and there, filling with sweet clamor all the summer air, can ye not be quiet? Hush, ye mountain streams, dancing to glad music from the world of dreams. And thou, mighty ocean, beating on the shore, bid thy angry billows stay their thunderous roar. O ye waves, lapse softly in such slumberous calm as ye know when circling isles of crusted palm. Bells in tower and steeple, be ye mute today, as the bell flowers rocking in the winds of May. Cease awhile, ye minstrels, though your notes be clear as the strains that soar in heaven's high atmosphere. Earth, bid all thy children hearken, for a voice sweeter than a seraph's bids their hearts rejoice. Floating down the silence of 100 years, lo, its deathless music thrills our listening ears. 'Tis the voice our fathers loved so long ago, songs to which they listened warbling clear and low. Hark, ye disconsolate, while the minstrel pure sings, earth has no sorrow that heaven cannot cure. Sings of love's wild rapture, triumphing o'er pain, glorying in giving, counting loss but gain. Sings the warrior's passion and the patriot's pride, and the brave unshrinking who for glory died. Sings of Erin smiling through a mist of tears, of her patient waiting all the weary years. Sings the pain of parting and the joy divine, when the bliss of meeting stirs the heart like wine. Sings of memories waking in the stilly night, of the young dreams fading in the morning light, of the rose of summer perishing too soon, of the early splendors waning ere the noon. O thou tender singer, all the air today trembles with the burden of thy farewell lay. Crowns and thrones may crumble into darkness hurled, yet is song immortal, song shall rule the world. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Our Last Word by Julia Caroline Dorr, read for LibriVox.org by Christine G. Where will it go to reach thine ears, my Father, thou dost wear, somewhere beyond the stars tonight, thy crown of silver hair? Somewhere thou art, no wandering ghost, in vast vague realms of space, but thine own self majestic fair, in thine appointed place. By one long look thy soul replied, when last I cried to thee, as thou wert drifting out of sight, upon the unknown sea. And well I know that thou wouldst turn, even from joys divine, if but thy listening ears could hear one faltering word of mine. Yet knowing this, I cannot lay my book upon thy knee, saying, O Father, once again I bring my sheaves to thee. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. End of Friar Anselmo and Other Poems by Julia Caroline Dorr.